We are on.
Welcome to episode 31 of Cooperators. With me, as always, is Chucking Dice.
Hello.
And I am Augmented Biscuits. I'm waiting for the day that Augmented Biscuits become an actual thing. Like
I thought they were an actual thing.
I think they are.
You said it was like a cooking thing, right?
No, I think I was probably full of shit that day I said that. Augmented Biscuits might just be like you throw some stuff in there and they're augmented. Or you just screw everyone over and put in a shitload of baking soda so it tastes like crap. Anyways, we got a lot of show today. We actually have a movie review from our own Chuck and Dice. We also have a game review. Some talk about the new Monster Hunter quest that Chuck and Dice will be interested in because it involves Megaman. And we also talk about Ash vs. Evil Dead and a few other things. So
let's move on here.
Let's get to it.
All right. So over the not this weekend, but last weekend, I went to Monsterpalooza, which was held at the Pasadena Convention Center. If you guys don't know, Monsterpalooza is it's actually supposed to be a trade convention for people into special effects and makeup. You got people doing schools doing up people in these horrifying and sometimes not even horrifying. Sometimes they're actually just sort of outworldly creatures, like fantasy creatures, like I guess wood fairies. I don't know. And they'll get these extremely skinny people and start putting prosthetics on them, and depending on what they make, they'll turn this little woman to a giant tree imp or whatever monster or something like that, or they can just change her into a normal tree fairy, I guess, something a little bit less scary.
Are there any furries at this convention?
No, there isn't. So this is an actual good convention. That's right, you heard that. It's an actual good convention.
God damn it.
We don't care
So
about
when it
furries.
comes to prosthetics and stuff,
Yeah.
I know this is something I also read on a few sites, and I've heard in interviews with VFX artists, things like that, makeup artists. I mean, ideally, people who are slender are preferable when it comes to prosthetics because they can get much more layers than a normal kind of stockier person. Or
right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Also, putting on heavy prosthetics is probably extremely hot, and people who are skinnier are probably less susceptible to that. So they're not getting really hot underneath because they're probably cold all the time. But the other thing is that you can just put on more layers to make them bigger looking. You don't need a physically imposing person. You can just put on some more layers and make them more scary or whatnot, or intimidating. There's a lot of cool makeup stuff. Now, the other part of it, it's pretty much just a horror convention. So it's devoted to horror movies and of that sort. One of the things I thought was really funny is that one of the panels there, there wasn't a lot of interesting panels, but one of the ones that did pop up was one for Deep Blue Sea Part 2.
Yes.
And it was touted as the long-awaited sequel to Deep Blue Sea, and I'm just wait, they were working on this?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see more Samuel L. Jackson getting eaten.
Well, I mean, how is he going to eat in the sequel?
Well, they just bring back his twin brother or something.
I guess that's true.
Also, LL Cool J was in the first one, so
right. So from what I could tell, I did not go to this this panel, by the way, because I kind of look my friends and I, we just kind of looked at it and we were just Deep Blue Sea 2. There's a 2 now? Why is it coming out now? I mean, it's not that the heyday of that film, well, I would say, would be when it was first released. But then, you could say that they actually maybe had a second renaissance, but that might be the early 2000s.
They had a second renaissance when Snakes on the Plane was announced.
I guess so. I guess, thematically, this is sort of the same, but yeah, okay, yeah, that was the early, mid-2000s then?
Yeah.
Okay. But like I said, it's directed by Darren Scott, who also directed Tales from the Hood and Dark House. I've seen Tales from the Hood.
About
co-written by Han Rodionoff, who did Lost Boys: The Thirst, which
I mean, this movie sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? Tales from the Hood, though, I will say about a majority of those stories were were good.
Right.
I really disliked the very, very last story.
Mm-hmm.
And the last story kind of leads up into the overall narration story
Right.
of like Tales in the Hood. But yeah, 3 of the 4, I think there's 4 stories in that movie altogether, and 3 of those 4 stories are great.
Right. So, Deep Blue Sea 2, look for it when it comes to, well, I guess it's not going to Blockbuster. I guess search in your Redbox.
Also, you can probably Redbox.
I guess I don't know if it's already out.
It's probably.
I have no idea anything about this movie, and I didn't do any additional research. I just wanted to talk about it on the podcast.
It will most likely come to Netflix.
Okay, Netflix, probably streaming, hopefully.
They might do. It might be like the Asylum stuff that is
Right.
probably going to definitely be on streaming platforms and VOD as soon as it. Like that's how they're going to release it.
Right. Oh.
You know, as much crap as people give these kind of B movies.
Right.
Some of them make all their money back.
They make all their money back because they don't pay their crew.
That's true.
So they save a lot in that.
That is the Asylum movies.
Right.
That is actually the Asylum MO. Is that
the Asylum MO and what's his name? Papadopoulos, whatever his name is. I forgot the guy's name. No, Jim Warnowski. Jim Warnowski will now. He used to make Chopping. He made this movie called Chopping Mall, which is a pretty like fun horror film about robot security droids that would kill people in this shopping mall. But he like later on transitioned to having pretty much a crew of like 3 or 4 people, and then he would get like these sort of pinup models to like play the parts, and it would just be like a a titty show pretty much. And yeah, he would make a deal, get a whole bunch of money, not spend a majority of the budget, shoot it in a week.
And then keep all the money for himself?
And pretty much keep all the money himself. Yeah. So.
Did anybody ever take him to court?
No, I mean, what he did was pretty much legal. There's nothing really illegal about it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, he had it all written in the contract and stuff like that.
Basically, the contract said, you come out in this movie and I ain't paying you shit.
Well, he says, I'll pay you, but this is how much I'm paying you, and the people just do it. Mostly because probably they need the money.
Yeah.
But other times maybe they're doing a favor for him or whatever. And then who knows? Maybe he'll like, I don't know, take him underneath his wing and like show him how to make cheaply, crappily made movies that sell well in the foreign market. But moving on here, I did dress up for Monsterpalooza. I dressed up as Ash,
which was great, by the way.
Ash
I saw
versus Evil
images.
Dead. Yeah. I got the denim shirt. I did up a chainsaw arm, which I made out of a Arizona tea bottle, which I got the directions from Instructables, which is a really great website for that kind of stuff. Later on, I'm probably going to wear this during Anime Expo, but I'm going to be wearing, and I actually bought it, I'm going to be wearing an Ash Ketchum hat, but the entire costume is just going to be Ash Williams from Ash vs. Evil Dead. And I'll have some like severed Pokemon heads around my belt, like clipped onto me or something. That's my idea.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, because I don't like Pokemon.
I don't think anybody likes Pokemon, honestly.
Well, isn't that game still popular?
Yeah.
Oh. No
Bunch of fucking nerds like Pokemon.
Well, yeah.
And there goes all our viewers.
All
5 of them.
All 5 of them.
I wonder if Vic likes Pokemon.
He probably doesn't. I mean, if he does, then I apologize, Vic, but you don't seem like the type that likes Pokemon.
So Monsterpalooza, do they also have vendors that sell sell horror movies or anything like hard to find, things like that?
Yeah, there's actually companies that are there too. So Severin is one of those companies that will sell these restored movies. A lot of them are more just like kind of Skinamax movies that people know by name, like your Emmanuel's or
Red Shoe Diaries,
Young Lady Chatterley, and stuff like that. It's like movies of that ilk, not those exact titles though. And then they did release Birdemic, which I hold against them. But then you can find other movies like Penitentiary 2. I ended up getting Blood Hook, which is a movie that the Mystery Science Theater guys did before they did Mystery Science Theater. There was an actual legitimate attempt to try and get into that slasher market, and Blood Hook is about a killer fisherman that uses a fishing pole with a hook at the end of it. It's completely ridiculous, and it belongs to like trauma films, that kind of style of filmmaking. But I kind of like it because it was kind of a reason to see what the MST3K guys did before they did that. So there's a lot of those vendors there. There used to be for me, I would go there to get bootleg films. But more and more, we're kind of seeing that like a lot of those bootleg films are being transferred over and actually being restored and being released for people who want to watch it. Probably because me and my friends, we kept on buying these bootlegs because they were not commercially available. Mm-hmm. So that was like that's kind of cool to see that grow. The movies are a hell of a lot more expensive now, though.
Yeah. You're like, I used to buy these when they were like $2 a piece.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Now they're like fucking $20.
You get like 3 for $15. I'm like, $5 a piece, okay, and I can't find this anywhere else. Now it's like, oh, it's okay. So now it's in a collector's tin. It's only $35.99. You can't find it anywhere else. I'm like,
except here, and it's $35.99.
Yeah, it's $35.99. But that was fun. Like, I had a good time. I like dressing up. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, I was stopped by every single girl there who wanted to take a picture because I think I was the only Ash there that day. And they're, oh my God, Ash, let's pose with me. And like, okay, here, take a selfie with me.
And you actually look like the older Ash from the
Right.
Evil Dead show now.
You're right. Exactly. That's why Ash was a perfect cosplay for me because I didn't have to be young to look like it. I didn't actually have to be really physically fit because, Bruce Campbell in the show, he's not that physically. He's not like, an uber athlete. He's just like an everyman.
I think you should have been Ash in the flashback when they show him with the mustache having sex with that with his daughter's like mom in the back of the car. It's like the greatest scene ever.
Was it Candy Bar or something?
Yeah, it's Candy Bar. Yeah, her name's Candy Bar.
Yeah.
I love that scene because he just has that just weird stash. It's just like the porn stash.
It was ridiculous because they're taking a picture and doing it, and they're in the car and doing it. And it's funny because we meet the mom like when she's composed, and then she says, "Don't you remember me?" And then he like has that flashback of like doing her like in every single room possible, and
and he's got like this weird he's got this fucking 70s porn star stash, which is fucking great.
And like he's like just has this maniacal laugh that's totally hilarious. Now, on to that point, sad to say that Ash vs. Evil Dead is being canceled. And this current third season is its last season.
Have they aired the finale yet?
They have not. Today is pretty much the how do you say that word? The one that's like, I guess... If you know how to pronounce that word...
Yeah.
Mention it in the comments.
Now, we can't read speak right now.
Yeah. It was 420 over the weekend. So we're not going to get any more seasons. This tonight is going to
penultimate.
Yeah, okay, there we go. That's the word. It's the second to the last episode tonight, and then next week is going to be the last episode of altogether. I'm not too disappointed because I was on the camp of, believing both Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi that they would never make an Evil Dead 4. And then, I was just kind of meandering in that section of like, oh, they're never going to make another Evil Dead. I mean, to me, like both Evil Dead Army of Darkness was a good little trilogy of stories. It had you could say that it had a beginning, middle, and end, or, but some people might say that Evil Dead 2 sort of remake, but I always see it as just the second film. But people like just have this understanding, or I had this understanding they would never come back to this at all. And then when they finally did for that first season, I was just like, well, this is going to be great. How many episodes are we getting? Oh, we're going to get 10 episodes, and they're all going to be 30 minutes. It's like, oh, cool. You're literally making 3 movies right there.
Yeah.
Because they're, an hour and a half each, about 9 episodes, and then you have this one, you can just, this last one. So it was kind of cool to, like, revisit that world in depth to figure out where Ash is, what he's like. He's totally hilarious. I mean,
Bruce Campbell hasn't lost his
no, he hasn't.
his charm.
I mean, that was one of the things that, like, me and my friend Cotterman, who's been on the show before, on the podcast, we were just like, well, what's it going to be like? I mean, I mean, he's older now. Like, I mean, we've seen him before in other stuff, whether it be Alien Apocalypse or Terminal Invasion, and that's when he was, younger. We hadn't, really seen Bruce Campbell outside of My Name is Bruce and Man with a Screaming Brain. And we didn't really like those movies. And that was the more recent movies that he did. And we're kind of afraid that, like, My Name is Bruce would have set the tone for what Ash vs. Evil Dead was. But then when we, finally saw it was like, oh, no, it's still the same. He's acting just a little bit more crass, which I believe it's kind of a good transition because he was acting a lot crass in Army of Darkness anyways. So it was kind of cool to see him in that sort of role as this aging, like you think an aging hero that's obviously out of touch with society, but still, like, when it comes to fighting Deadites, he's an expert. Which I thought was really cool, is that, like, as soon as he got that chainsaw on him, and what's it called? Ray Santiago's character Pablo asks him, "How do you feel, Jefe?" And he had one word, and he just said groovy. And, like, after that was the end of the first episode. I was like amazed, like, wow, this 30-minute episode just brought me back to that place when I first saw Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
And it went on for a second season, which was a pretty cool season. Had a conclusion, but, like, it also left it open for a third season, which I guess at the time we weren't sure if we were going to get that third season. Mm-hmm. But we ended up getting it. Like, my only hope is that Ash vs. Evil Dead ends definitively, and not like a Twin Peaks ending, where he's, like, in this other place, like, trapped.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I really hope that they do that. And I want to say that maybe they plan for that, because it seemed like they planned for that for the second season. Not so much for the first season, but for the second season. So it'd be kind of cool to see a sort of, like, this definitive conclusion, which Bruce Campbell said that, like, this will have a conclusion of some sort.
I was excited for this series, obviously. Like you, I felt I was in the camp of, oh, they're not going to make another one. When the remake came out, I actually had pretty low expectations for a remake.
Right.
Or actually, no expectations.
Right. I actually liked the remake.
But I enjoyed it, yeah. And, when I heard that they were going to try to tie the two movies together, I thought that was cool. One thing this kind of just leads into what I'm saying. I mean, one thing I liked was that they expanded, when they introduced the Knights of Samaria in the third season.
Yeah.
I actually liked that they expanded the world a bit, like the lore,
mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the Deadeye attacks and all this stuff seems to be pretty huge. I mean, it's not like there's no other groups who don't know about these attacks, and it always, I felt like these Deadeye attacks, they were always too confined, too much to Ash. And so, having them expand the world to, like, another group is actually really nice.
I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was, like, a good connection to, like, I guess the stuff that happened in Army of Darkness. Mm-hmm. Because if you didn't know this, like, during the build of Season 1, they actually did not have the rights to Army of Darkness. So and it's really weird because I guess, like, this, like, Sam Raimi and the crew always had issues with, like, doing a callback to the previous film. For example, in Evil Dead 2, they couldn't do any, like, last time on Evil Dead and show any of the flashback mm-hmm. in the first movie. So instead, they kind of recreated the gist of the first movie, like Linda being possessed, in the second film, and that was supposed to be the callback, but just kind of in a different form. Bruce Campbell goes on to saying, if you go to the end of Evil Dead and see that part where he's, like, being thrown through the trees, and then, like, start it at that point on Evil Dead 2, that's where the movie's supposed to really happen. In the first season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, they couldn't do any kind of callbacks to Army of Darkness, although they did this one little wink. But, like, they couldn't really do that. But in the second season, they ended up getting the rights, and then they could make that connection. And I thought it was kind of cool because the Knights of Samaria, I kind of think, oh, well, that's probably, like, Arthur from Army of Darkness, and I think is Henry. They probably formed this organization to make sure that Ash had some help in his like, I guess, present day future.
Yeah, which is cool.
Which I thought was pretty cool. Like a nice world building thing where I didn't expect to find any kind of world building.
Yeah, which I thought was great. Yeah, so it's we're pretty disappointed that it's not going to renew, but I agree with you. I do hope there's a definitive end to this.
Yeah, just because I thought like the characters they introduced, I like Ray Santiago's character Pablo, and then there's Dana De Lorenzo's character. I can't remember her name.
Kelly.
It's Kelly, yes. God,
Yes, Kelly.
why can't I remember?
And then bringing back Lucy Lawless.
Yeah, Lucy
was
Lawless
great.
as Ruby.
Was great.
Lucy Lawless is actually a really good nemesis for them.
Yeah.
Which, you know, at first I thought she was legitimately Ruby Nobi, which was supposed to be like, I guess, the second daughter of Professor Nobi, the one who in the tape recites the passages from the Necronomicon. I just love this version because it's more authentic than the video games that came out and the comic books that came out. Wasn't the biggest fan of the comic books, the Army of Darkness comic books, because they were so one note, and they always kind of just retreaded all of the Army of Darkness movies. Like, okay, Ash's evil twin comes out, and then they fight. Then he says something about some one-liner that's very similar to a one-liner in Army of Darkness. And the video games I never really enjoyed because they weren't very good.
They were also difficult.
They were very difficult.
They were unfairly difficult, and that's kind of like the downer is.
Yeah.
You wanted to go through that story, but you had to deal with this difficulty.
Yeah, I'm actually I put Evil Dead Hail to the King on my PSP. I tried playing it. I could not beat it. I beat it before when I was younger. But I tried beating it, and it was like, this game is way too hard. So it's like, you know what? I'll install a cheat thing on my PSP so I can just do some cheat codes to make it a little bit more easier on myself. So I, set it up to have infinite gas in the chainsaw, which I thought would be a factor. Couldn't get past the first section of the game. Got killed. They have respawning enemies. Yeah. In a 3D environment, and it's like insane. It's like picture playing Resident Evil, and every time you kill a person, and you just step off screen and then come back just by like an inch, the zombie just reappears, and you have to kill him again, and you have no ammo. And
it's really bad. Yeah.
And you need gas for your chainsaw. Wait, I think that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Just give him gas in the chainsaw. Don't collect gas so that
respawning enemies suck.
Respawning enemies, and then a melee weapon that uses ammo.
Yeah. They're pretty bad.
Well, they have this weird thing where you have to collect mushrooms and combine it with something else to make gas.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like
weird.
This doesn't.
The PS2 games weren't better. Weren't even better actually. Honestly, They were a little easier, but they were still frustrating to play. I mean,
yeah, Fistful of Boomsticks I had, and I hated the. Again, it wasn't so much respawning enemies, but if you stood still, you would get hit by another onslaught of deadites.
Yeah,
and that would just sap your your ammo, and I don't believe you needed gas for that one. Regenerations was at least sort of like a one-player game. That was, to me, it was okay, but at that point it was too late.
Yeah.
So it's good to have a good rendition of Evil Dead instead of crappy video games and crappy comic books. I'm sorry, but they're crappy comic books.
Tell us how you really feel, Chuck and Dice.
Well, I don't like the comic books, that's all. But I love the show. The show's great. I'm having a blast. It's the only show that I look forward to watching. It's the only show that always delivers for me. I've been disappointed in the past by, the big shows like Walking Dead, like Game of Thrones sometimes. A lot with Walking Dead now. But
are you still watching that?
I am still watching it because it's at this point, why should I even quit? I mean, I might as well see this thing to the end. It was really tough this season because it was just like, Jesus Christ, everyone just makes dumb decisions. Is this is what The Walking Dead is about? They should just call it Dumb Decisions. Whereas Ash vs. Evil Dead it's just spot on for me. It just delivers what it needs to deliver. Whatever it delivers, it's really good at doing that. I laughed my ass off when he went to the fertility clinic. He was being attacked by the Deadite, and the Deadite was throwing basically sperm samples at him, like splooge basically, and he's dodging it as if they were bullets. He's frightened to get anything on him. which I thought was hilarious because, like, you know, here's this deadite that wants to kill him, but is throwing splooge, and that's as deadly as, like, you know, like, as if she would be throwing knives or something like that.
I thought the fight with the Knights of Samaria that turned into deadites in the basement was pretty cool.
Yeah,
too.
that was actually that thing that came out. There was this really cool. I mean, sorry if this is a spoiler for someone, but there's this really cool thing where a Samaria Knight went into the portal and came back, and basically turned into this like it reminded me of Resident Evil 2.
Oh yeah, the
G virus.
William Birkin.
Yeah, William Birkin. Like, that to me looked so cool because it was prosthetics and stuff like that, talking about Monsterpalooza and stuff, and it looked really neat. And I was like, man, that's what the Resident Evil 2 monster looks like.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And like,
I think that's the last episode I've seen. I haven't caught up.
Yeah, it's getting pretty good. I really dig it. It's groovy. But getting away from Ash vs. Evil Dead, we're going to be talking about a little bit about Monster Hunter. And
I swear to God, this is the last Monster Hunter I'm going to talk about. I only wanted to bring this up because it stars Megaman, and I made a video on my YouTube channel. I actually streamed a Monster Hunter quest to get the Megaman armor. So the really cool thing with Monster Hunter, you know, it's made by Capcom, so they have a lot of Capcom characters they can access and dip into, and one of them is Megaman.
Yeah.
Now, they ran this event. Similar when they did Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
They have an event for Mega Man. They did one for Street Fighter where you can dress up as Ryu. You can actually have armor that makes you look like Ryu. And they had.
And as I heard, you could do Hadouken and Shoryukens.
Yeah, I actually bought them. They're gestures, and I think each of them were like $2 or $3 each. They're actually cool. You can actually hit people with them and do damage, but it's like really small damage. But they're really cool. They're really fun. And they introduced the Mega Man content. Now, the Mega Man content, your character doesn't dress up as Mega Man, but you dress up your Palico as Mega Man. Now, the great thing about this, though, is that it's not just an aesthetic thing. You actually get Mega Man, like actual Mega Man sound effects. So, like when your Palico is going to eat something, he throws out an energy tank and eats it. Like, he drinks it.
I saw that. Like
the arm cannon you get is an actual weapon, so he shoots the yellow bullets, at enemies. When you leave a mission or when he comes in, he actually teleports in like Mega Man. So it's not just, a look thing. The quest itself was pretty simple. It's not very difficult. But what made me and you'll see on my stream, I actually play with another friend of mine, Proto Man. Yeah. When you play the mission, and depending on the weapon that you're using, a different Mega Man background track plays. So, like, when I was using...
Oh, so the original, like, Mega Man 8-bit music is playing?
Yes. So when I was using the long store, I don't know what the track was, but it was playing. But then when I switched to... I believe I was switched to Sword and Shield, the Quickman stage music was playing. And when you jump in, it actually plays because you're starting a boss encounter, it plays like the boss, that little boss noise where like the meter goes up and stuff like that. So you go in and it plays the background music, and it's actually really, really cool. I actually found it a lot more fun and engageable than the Ryu one, because the Ryu mission was pain in the ass. So you just destroy these, you kill these, you hunt these monsters, you defeat them, and you get these tickets, and you turn in so many tickets, and you can turn these tickets and materials in to create this armor. Vic, I know Vic commented on this. I mean, if you do own Monster Hunter, I would highly recommend you check this out. It's a really fun mission. Also, it's really just fun seeing Mega Man run around. I mean,
I like how really it's like a 3D 8-bit image, so I guess you could say it's kind of on the lines of Minecraft kind of look, but it's more refined because he has like, he doesn't look all boxy, like completely boxy. He does have like sort of circular look to him. Yeah. And the thing is, like, at the risk of sounding a little unmanly, I think it's like the most adorable thing in the world. It actually
really is like the coolest thing they've done.
It's like watching it's like the equivalent of watching a little puppy run around, but like he can do all this Mega Man stuff, and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's cool because they also have guild cards. These guild cards are kind of like these cards you can send to people and say, hey, do you want to like be on my friends list? Mm-hmm. And these guild cards have like different backgrounds and stuff. So like the Ryu one had the background for the Ryu one was the car destroying stage. Yeah. For this one, for Mega Man, it's actually a boss stage, and your Palico is, if you dress your Palico up in the Mega Man armor, he's actually jumping, shooting in this background. So it's actually really cool. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, totally check it out. I mean, it's a really fun mission. I just wanted to bring this up because Capcom is actually really supporting this Monster Hunter game quite a bit. A lot of their events, all this DLC is free. I mean, you don't have to pay a dime for this stuff. Really, the only thing they're charging people is for cosmetic stuff. If, let's say, down the line they do decide to do this huge expansion, because there is a lot they can do with this game, I imagine they might charge, but, I mean, they haven't revealed anything yet. The next event that they're actually going to have is they're going to have the next, content they're going to drop in is Devil May Cry. You're actually going to be able to dress up as Dante from Devil May Cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're also, and you get armor that makes you look like Dante, but also you get his sword, which you can actually use as a weapon in the game. They're also going to have Sakura in there. You can get armor to look like Sakura, and I believe they're actually going to add specific animations for her as well.
Right.
Which is, a lot of people who play as female characters are looking forward to, because, you use a female character and you put on the Ryu armor, you look Ryu. So, it's a little weird. It's a little wonky.
So you
just have this buff dude, and you're like, yeah.
You got these pectorals that are like at the size of like.
Yeah, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, Ryu, why do you guys just so manly and huge? So yeah, there's a lot of content coming through. But yeah, so I say check it out. And that kind of leads me into another thing that released that same week. Actually, I think the week before, is Far Cry 5. Now, I did stream a little bit of Far Cry 5. I streamed one of the side missions. And Far Cry 5, let me tell you, it's pretty crazy. So Far Cry 5 is the next installment in the long-running series. I
don't know really anything about Far Cry.
So the Far Cry series first started off as you were this kind of like Marine. You were this kind of I don't know if you were like an army personnel, but you were in a jungle and you got experimented on by some scientist, and he gave you like animal powers. Basically, you like can run fast, you can detect things, and it was weird.
You had animal powers?
It was kind of like the island of Dr. Monroe. It was a little weird. You had like these kind of superpowers.
It sounds like it's a television show from like the late 70s, early 80s called Manimal.
I think it was like
where he got the powers of the animal, but like, he could swim as fast as a shark and like move like a panther.
It was like that.
Or Beastmaster.
And again, I never played the first Far Cry. I might be misremembering it. I don't know. But it was something similar like that. And then it kind of evolved from there. Like Far Cry 2 is really one of the games a lot of people talk about, and they say it's probably one of the best Far Cry games, though the game is very, very polarizing.
Yeah.
It's a very, very difficult game. It's very it's really it's not very friendly. There's a lot of mechanics that work against you in that game, but the actual interactions and open world of it is great. I actually enjoy it. It is a very difficult game. There are a few things that are kind of annoying, like respawning checkpoints. But I know at Tiny Dinosaurs really likes Far Cry 2 as well. It's one of those games where like you either love it or hate it. But those people who love it say it's like one of the greatest games ever made. You start off, in Far Cry 2, you're in like South African content. And you're struck with malaria, and you basically have to hunt down this arms dealer. What made the game so great though was like you had things like fire spreading, your helpers. You can hire these kind of mercenaries to help you out in the game. They die permanently. Your gun would jam, so you'd have to throw your gun away and pick up somebody else's gun. The AI was really cool. Like you try to run over an AI and they jump out of the way, and then they like try to run after. They would jump out of the way and they would shoot at you. But then let's say you didn't bother finishing off an AI. Let's say you shot the enemy and just ran away. They would get into a Jeep and run you over. They would like basically try their best to kill you. So in the game evolved from there. The latest installment, there was a bit of controversy when it was announced, because this game takes place in the United States. It actually takes place in Montana.
Like present day?
Yeah, present day Montana. Yeah. It's actually in a area called Hope County.
Yeah. And
the reason why it caused controversy, one, because of the art that you see here, because it's very reminiscent of The Last Supper, but two, was that the enemies were essentially a militia, a religious cult,
right?
And they're white. So this caused some controversy because they felt like the developers were specifically going after Trump supporters.
Right.
You know, there's been a few interviews. You know, people have asked the developers, you know, what their motive behind this was, and they honestly their answer. And I'm not surprised because you got to remember, games are in development for years before they're released, like at least 3 years.
Right.
So the answer the developers gave was that when they first started, you know, developing, you know, when they first started working on this game, this was way before Trump was elected.
Yeah.
Way before the presidential race, way before everyone knew, before he became president.
Yeah.
So the developer said it's kind of weird how life imitated art, and they got this situation they're in. And so again, when this game was announced and the first trailer was shown and gameplay was shown, people were outraged. Now, Chuck and Dice, you mentioned to me when I got here that you heard some controversy saying that.
Yeah, I was looking at some videos, and I was just watching something about video. I was researching just video games in general, and this came up on my search, and I guess people were really disappointed. Well, I think the main controversy was how Rockstar portrays their video games. Mm-hmm. And but the main thing was that Far Cry was released having this sort of certain look that matched up with how some people view the political environment, and they're like, oh well, why didn't they have a political message that accompanied this game? Which is kind of weird to me because I don't see video games normally as having a certain political agenda. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when people see art, they see what they want to see, which is concept of art to me.
Do you feel they also project their own beliefs and expectations?
I mean, they can, but sometimes when people see it, to me this was bizarre because they expected it to have a political message, and I guess the game doesn't really have a political message. Mm-hmm. It's just a fun video game from what I hear. I don't know if if I haven't played it myself, and I haven't played any of the Far Cry games, so I don't really have a stance on that. But it's weird to me that people are disappointed that why didn't they talk about Trump more? Why didn't they talk about the evils of of government when they side with a majority like this? And I'm just do they need to? When I played Super Mario back in the day, I just wanted to play it until I beat Bowser and finally found that elusive princess in the castle. When I'm playing, something I don't know, Gauntlet, I'm not really thinking about anything political. And some of these games do have stories, but they're very simple stories. I'm obviously talking about retro games because that's my bigger experience. But when I'm playing an adventure game, I'm just into the characters and the story, and I get carried away with that story. Here, I don't know. Do you feel that it would have been better if it had a political message of some sort or an agenda that it was trying to kind of hit?
I don't think it would have necessarily been better. Right. Just to kind of quickly talk about the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay for this is your typical open world first person shooter. Right. You shoot. You have guns. You shoot. You kind of it has some RPG elements. The more missions you do, the more perks you unlock. You get better with handling guns, things like that. You can drive things, you can fly, you have different helpers, things like that. Right. Really touched the story too. The story of this is that you are actually a U.S. Marshal. Yeah. You're a rookie U.S. Marshal, and for the first time in the series, you can actually be a man or a woman. They let you choose the gender. Right. This is the first for Ubisoft for this game. And the way it starts off is you're actually in a helicopter with, you're not a U.S. Marshal. You're actually a sheriff's deputy. Right. But you're accompanying a U.S. Marshal to arrest this religious cult leader named Jacob. And you're there to arrest him for a few charges like kidnapping and intent to harm. And stuff goes sideways. You go trying to arrest him, and as you're leaving in the helicopter, his cult attacks and brings down the helicopter. Right. Helicopter crashes. He gets away. You and your deputies are all taken away. You are the only one who escapes. And now you essentially have to help the local residents who are resisting this cult leadership because this turned in from something that everybody thought was a joke to now they have full blown taken over the town and are forcing people to convert to this cult. They're using the reason why I want to mention this, because it's kind of part of what I want to discuss about the message, is they're using a chemical in their baptisms that they pour into lakes and rivers and streams to convert people to this religious cult.
Right.
So they're forcing people to do this. So you have local residents who are opposing them, and you as a deputy sheriff are helping them out. Now, I finished this game. I didn't finish this game because I kind of actually can get a little tiresome. It's actually a really big game.
Right.
You have to finish about 4 sections of this game, and I was kind of getting a little tired of it. So I got through probably about 2/3 of it, and then I stopped. But I ended up reading up and watching the ending. As far as the Far Cry games go, and it's especially true actually since the last few games. Again, I never played part 1, but I played 2, 3, and 4. Their endings have never been happy endings. Their endings have actually kind of been, there haven't been happy endings. Been actually kind of like, they've been just endings. It's not happy, but it's also not, really dark or depressing. They've had multiple endings. Like I said, I want to mention the last game. You had these 2 factions who were fighting over this territory that you're in, and depending on the faction you choose, one, you either sided with these kind of faction that was very more religious, traditional role for the people, and so when you ended the game, he basically took over, and it was actually voiced by the actor who played Naveen Andrews, who played Saeed in Lost.
Yeah.
If you sided with him, he kind of enacted this kind of like ultra-conservative religious kind of like sect in the entire area. But if you sided with the other faction, was run by this woman, she turned into a drug queen, and she exported opium. She essentially used the country to grow opium and get her country out of poverty and become major drug dealers in the world, which is kind of like, sure, you helped your people get out of poverty, but you also really corrupted the hell out of everything. And you're kind of like, so really think about those 2 endings. They're not happy or good. They're just kind of endings.
That reminds me of the Simpsons episode with Lisa and Montgomery Burns, and they basically collect all the trash.
Oh, the slush thing, the slushy thing.
Yeah, and then Montgomery Burns uses all that trash to create an ultra uber net that will capture any kind of sea animal.
Yeah,
and just like Lisa goes out there, stop recycling, and they like look at her and like, but you told us to recycle. Yeah, you said it was good.
And it's kind of one of those endings where like. Yeah. Which you really think about in the context of these games, they're making. I feel like the developers are making these games because the world really isn't the world. In the world, you don't have
black and white. You don't
have black and white. You don't have good. You don't have good endings, and you have a lot of bad endings. Yeah. You don't really have happy endings, and I think they've been doing a pretty good job of doing this, where they have to just. They're very believable. Like, here are the results of what you've did, or the logical conclusion of what you've kind of been building up. So in this game follows that trend of you have these kind of logical conclusions of what's been building up. Now, as far as making this political, I mean, there are ideas and things you hear in the game, and it gets you, as a person playing the video game, it can make you think about what you're doing, but also kind of on a deeper level, on a much smaller scale, is kind of have these kind of questions and really kind of ideas and debates you can have. Like, sure, you're there and you're stopping a religious cult, but I mean, are you really the best person to be telling people what to do? Like, what power, what authority do you have over what's going on here on a local level? Right. The way I played it was, yes, there is this religious cult that took over, and it's funny how they explain in the video game world, in that world that you are in, they were a joke at first, and then as time went on, they became more and more dangerous, and they were forcing people against their will to convert. So that's kind of how I was seeing it. You can look at this game as maybe as an analogy of what's going on nowadays, how you have these militia, these very well-armed militias using religion as a tool to, I don't want to say brainwash, right, but really kind of get people to understand their point of view. And the message that they start off with in this game, and it's very apparent from the very beginning, is that the world, look at the world around you. It's in ruin. People are afraid. Things are happening. You know, nobody knows what the hell they're doing. You know, things are dangerous. People are being corrupted. There's a lot of bad out in the world. And what that religious cult was offering was, I wouldn't say salvation, but a place for you to be safe. Right. A place for you where you can belong and not have to worry about the outside world trying to get you.
You sound like Billy Zane's character in Demon Knight when he was talking to that prostitute chick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
I feel that you're going to do something and I'm going to feel like fingers on my lips or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to suck someone's soul out.
Yeah. I'm already actually touching your lips right now.
Right, I know. Get away from me.
God damn.
But to me, that sounds like, I know that like a lot of people are making sort of these connections of like what's happening today, and that's fine. But to me, it looks like they had a lot of like inspiration from from how you're explaining it to me, from Waco, also the what's it, John Appleby, Applebaum, the Heaven's Gate cult.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to be a chief thing. And the fact that you're saying that they're making people drink this chemical through water just brings that old, what's that saying, drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
And then becoming a part of that. That's always kind of been with us, kind of thing. Like, it's weird to me that sometimes people kind of forget about the past. And, like, we don't really learn from the past. We're not really kind of moving forward.
Perfect example are current Nazis.
Yeah.
The Nazi resurgence.
Yeah.
I love how people always say, do you guys not remember what happened the last time when we had Nazis? Like, the entire world fought you guys and defeated you. Like, how did you guys not learn from that?
Right. But Nazis have a... It's like, no, come on.
Yeah.
They're Nazis.
I really think the developers, when they were developing this game, and again, you have to remember, these games are in development years before the release. Like, there's been times Duke Nukem Forever was in development for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
This game, I think, was in development, I wouldn't doubt, since the last game came out, which was like 4 years ago, I think. I really think what their developers were making, their basis for this were, like you said, all these religious cults of the past. All these cults of, like I said, your Waco, your freaking...
the Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
Scientologists.
The Scientology, yeah.
Whatever Allison Mack's doing right now.
Yeah, that whatever that like sex cult,
which happened years ago, guys.
And when you play this game, you'll see a lot of that, and it really just kind of makes sense. And and again, I'm not afraid to say, like, the message that they preach, that the in-game cult preaches in the beginning, you can't help but be kind of at least admire that message that they're giving people.
Right.
They're telling people, the world is shit around you. There's so much fear. There's so much bad going on. Like, let us give you a place where you can just relax and feel good about yourself and not have to worry and feel protected and loved. Like, who doesn't want that?
Right.
So again, I don't think these games have to be political. I think people might have read into it too much a bit.
Yeah.
I have had gone to video game sites, and they've kind of mentioned how they feel like the developers squandered some potential for this game to have a deeper meaning and convey a certain message. But I feel like these video game sites, I think at times, it's kind of hard for me to put in words. I feel like these video game websites kind of put too many expectations on these games.
Right.
I think they expect, they'll play one game. If they play one game and it has a really deep connection to that for the writer, for the writer who's writing the story, or it does really, really well by conveying a certain message. Like, perfect example is Spec Ops: The Lines. Mm-hmm. That was a very, really dark, very interesting game storyline wise. It had a lot of deep meaning. It was referred as to the video game equivalent of the novel Heart of Darkness.
Right.
So I think when video game websites play these kind of games that have deeper meanings, I think they kind of expect other games to have that or kind of follow suit.
Right.
Or in the case of Far Cry, they saw that, oh, this is might be an analogy of Trump's America. Let's see what they go with this. They have these expectations, and then they play, and they're like, wait, nothing happened. There was no deeper message. Like, what the fuck? Like, why you just wasted some potential. I feel like that's something that a lot of these kind of video game reviewers and also critics, I think, put unfair expectations to developers.
Yeah, and it's like Trump has only been president for over a year now. Just point to a game that was I'm sorry, a good game. Particularly, this is a 5-star title or whatever. Like, point to a game that's been developed in exactly 1 year. Like, you're not going to find a lot.
No.
Most of the games that have been built for exactly 1 year are not going to probably be a very good game, or it's going to be something very simple, like a Candy Crush style game.
I mean, pre-production on some of these games takes at least a year, honestly.
Right.
So, I feel like sometimes there's an unexpected.
Yeah,
there's
and it's like technology's come. Guys, technology has come a long way, but you have to go through a process, and you can't just change stuff on the fly.
And there's a lot of. I think I just kind of want to emphasize. I think there was unfair expectations first. I think that's why you saw kind of like this uproar of criticism against it for kind of squandering it.
Right.
And I think it's fair. As far as the game itself, I would suggest you check out my video, but I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of the series or you haven't played the series, I would say the series is probably a really good entry point. The mechanics are really great. They kind of streamline a lot of the systems. It's really fun. Yeah. It can be very difficult at times, though. It is probably a little closer to Far Cry 2 in difficulty. But I think it's great. They really do. The one thing did enjoy is they really made the antagonists they present in the game for you.
All right.
They made them very, very hateable.
Oh, really?
Well, for me, it was really hateable because I have my own, and I mentioned this in the stream. I have kind of my own personal views of religion and religious cults and people being forced, against their will to convert to things like this. So, I say check it out.
Right. The guy in the middle looks like CM Punk.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
So we're going to move on here. I did check out a film not too long ago. I guess if you guys ever heard of it, it's based on a book. And I have actually read the book, too, before I went to go see the film. That book, and I guess you could say IP, is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is what is this kind of... how to describe the movie? I want to say cyberpunk, but I want to say cyberpunk-ish. It's a story about this virtual world that people plug into called the Oasis, and they can live out they can play games, they can live out like an identity, they can change their avatar into any costume, much like you can do in most MMORPGs. But apparently, the Oasis in this realm has a effect on their lifestyle as well. They can do jobs, basically, sort of like a fun version of Second Life. No offense to all the Second Life users out there, but I found that game kind of boring. And it is a game. Come on.
What do you have against Second Life, honestly?
You're
like, I don't even like my first life. Why would I want a second life?
Well, it's like you got to get a job, you got to make money, and I'm just doing this stuff and going through these motions. Well, I don't want to do any of this because I've already done this in real life.
Can you fly in Second Life?
You can fly in Second Life. You can make yourself look like Dwight Schrute.
I love.
There's an episode.
I love how that kind of perfectly sums up Second Life.
Yeah.
He has a Second Life account and a character, and it's the exact same life he currently has in his current life, in the actual real life, but he can fly.
Yeah, pretty much. So in Ready Player One, it's like Second Life now. But the story of Ready Player One is that the main character, Parzival, is trying to... basically, the creator of the Oasis has passed away and said that he hid his vast fortune, and you have to get through these trials to try and unlock this fortune, and then you'll be the overlord of the Oasis. You'd be in charge of everything, basically. So it's sort of like a race against the clock with these gunters, which are egg hunters. It's like sort of a nickname for them, and they're trying to like solve Halliday's the guy who invented the Oasis, his riddles to unlock all the challenges, pass all the challenges, and get to the last Easter egg so that they can, become this like god in the Oasis. Meanwhile, a corporation obviously is coming in to basically trying to hijack it all so they can charge money for access to the Oasis. They can do tier systems. Basically, they're EA. That's how someone described it to me. Loot boxes and all. Now, there was a movie that just got released by the same name, and it was directed by Steven Spielberg. So I don't want to spoil anything for you because I'm sure you haven't seen it yet, as we discussed before. But I checked out both the book and the movie, and I gotta say I have to be honest. I actually enjoyed both. A lot of people are saying, well, it seems like it's just a thing that like references pop culture every 2 seconds. I'm just like, do you like Pulp Fictions? Yeah. They did the same thing. I mean, they're a little. I will say, Ready Player One is a little bit more visual into it, but it's I mean, if you watch any movie in the past like 10 years, there's going to be 9 million pop culture references. Some that you might notice, some that you might not notice, but they're all going to be there. You could say some exceptions are like maybe Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, but even then, you're probably going to find something in there. I really dug it because the book I dug because it was more descriptive to the stuff I enjoyed while I was a child. Because they talk about things like Zork, they talk about things like Joust, different things like that. Old video games that I used to play on the Atari. The big one that they talked about was Adventure, which is the first video game that had an Easter egg in it. Have you played Adventure on Atari?
No.
You basically traverse this labyrinth, and you basically kind of just wander in this maze. There's like dragons and like other enemies, but you're trying to collect items, and the thing that you're trying to do is unlock the gate to the treasure room so that you can get all the treasure. Alternate to that, if you kind of just wander and just start like looking at things that you're not supposed to be looking for, you'll find a key that you need to take to like the secret room, and basically what the secret room unlocks is a credit room, because back then Atari made a mandate that no one is credited for video games. And so like this was like a hidden Easter egg where you could actually see who actually created the video game. Later on, I think Atari found out and ended up firing that person, but that person ended up starting up Activision or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know the exact history, but I really dug the film, and the film is mostly like, because like they couldn't exactly get to they couldn't really, I think, connect with the crowd with some of the stuff they mentioned in the book to moviegoers. It's a little bit more open with its pop culture references. There was a lot of video game references in there. There's a lot of other stuff in there too. I mean, they do Gundam Wing. They do like Iron Giant, which Iron Giant to me was a '90s thing, not so much an '80s thing. In the book, they definitely make it that he's really '80s influenced. But in the movie, it's more I would say it has a little bit more '90s influence as well, so that try to keep in touch with the younger crowd. In its own way, it's a little bit more, family friendly, because in the book someone gets thrown out a window. Like it's like a kid gets thrown out the window, and that's how like this organization like kills people, like mafia style.
Jesus.
But in the movie, obviously they don't do that. In fact, some people who died one person who died in the book doesn't die in the movie. So
gotcha.
So it's like it's kind of cool. It's kind of like cool to see these two different sides. I guess you could probably say it's the equivalent of reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the comic and watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the cartoon.
Yeah, because in the comic, don't they like?
They're like slicing people up.
Don't they definitely kill Shredder? Like
yeah, they definitely
just
did
fucking kill
yeah.
Shredder.
They handed him a grenade and threw him off a roof, and he blew up.
Yeah, and then Master Splinter dies, right? Fighting Shredder at a certain point. Like
he doesn't.
Doesn't he have like a heart attack or something?
Something like that. Like Shredder ends up coming back.
Yeah,
which I think is totally insane. That he's like, oh, I got thrown out and now I'm back. Apparently, he became some weird worm type creature with some healing factor. I don't know. The comic book a little
Really?
wacky.
Yeah.
Not to say that the cartoon didn't get wacky.
Yeah, I heard the comic got like really,
Yeah.
really weird at certain, like
Oh,
at certain
yeah.
point, like Raphael takes over the Foot Clan or some shit like that.
Something
and
like that. Yeah,
it's like
just-
really dark.
Yeah. Like comic books tend to go on the just off the rails sometimes, and in some ways books can do that too. Books can like kind of get off the rails as well, so they could do a lot of stuff. Like one of the trials in the book version of Ready Player One is that they have to like actually play Zork, but not in a text setting because Zork was a text game. But they were like in the real life house of Zork, and they have to collect all the trophies and put them on the trophy rack to get the key to unlock this gate that leads to the second clue or the third clue that all the players need. They obviously didn't do that in the movie because
It would take way too long.
Yeah, you'd have to explain what Zork is, and like, you know, Zork hasn't been popular since when it came out back in the early 80s. So no one's going to understand that. The first trial was supposed to be the main character Parsifal playing a AI who's like, then they're just playing normal Joust. Obviously that's not going to appeal to anyone. That's not very cinematic. To me, I thought it was hilarious because they were playing Joust. And like, you know, the irony of all that, they have these like this AI creature thing, you know, made to look like a giant king or whatever, is playing just Joust with this normal kid. In which in the movie they change it to a big huge race where you can control these different like race cars. You're just kind of driving, and you have to get past King Kong, who like destroys all the cars before they can like reach the finish line. So that's a lot more cinematic. I feel that also the Ready Player One film is more has to do with film than anything else. There's a level where they go into The Shining, the movie, basically. And I had to, when I saw this in theaters, I actually had to lean forward and take a closer look. Because one of the things that I thought was pretty wacky when I saw that scene with The Shining, I won't ruin it too much, is that they've matched the film grain of the original Shining. So it looks like these like sort of like, you know, CGI characters were in the actual movie. It's not like they, you know, use the same set or whatever. It's like the same look, the same lighting. And like sometimes it looked like they used a scene from the actual movie. Other times, like, you know, because of the way the camera was angled, it looked like, you know, they were really there. That part was the one that roped me in because, you know, up to that it was kind of just like a, you know, normal like family story. But then I got to that Shining part and I was like, this is incredible. Like, I really do like the look of this. You know, I would recommend it, but, you know, if you're one of those people who are a hardcore fan of the book, you're probably not going to enjoy the movie. And if you are a hardcore fan of the movie, you're probably not going to enjoy the book.
There's no middle ground.
There's no real middle ground, yeah. They're coming out with these movies where people don't have a middle ground here. I enjoyed both just because, you know, I was kind of fascinated with the story when someone told me about it. They said, oh, it's like, you know, they're finding Easter eggs and you doing this, and they have to study pop culture. I'm like, wow, that's something like I just do on my spare time. But I think it does speak to sort of that millennial crowd who've kind of grown up with YouTube now, and like YouTube tends to do this stuff. They like do deep study of pop culture. There's like content owners who do that kind of thing. And yeah, I think it's kind of neat that Spielberg himself is integrating something that is totally alien to him, but he's trying to understand what it all means and such. There is like a small message about like not being, you know, hardwired into some medium, but you know, it's you know, it's not to the point where it's like way too preachy. There's a lot of narration too. With a story like this, you can't avoid that. But not really a bad film. I really dug it. I mean, I haven't really dug Spielberg in a while now. Just because, you know, he's off doing historical dramas, which some are good, some are okay, some aren't great. And then there's that Indiana Jones 4, which was not great.
Why you gotta hate on the 4, bro? Didn't you like nuking the fridge? Come on.
Oh, God. Where are they? In another dimension. Okay, I guess. But that looked like a UFO. Are they just in space? Nope, another dimension. They're interdimensionals. And those monkeys. Such a dumb scene.
Why you gotta hate?
Did you like it?
Indiana 4?
Yeah.
Nah, not really. I thought I only ever watched it once.
Yeah.
I've only ever watched it once, and I'd never had the desire to go back and watch it again. And I when I first watched it, I was like, I was basically just like, whatever. I was meh. I was just like, it's okay, it's whatever. I don't think it was necessary. I also don't think it was.
Yeah, it was definitely not
I
necessary.
also don't think it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion either way on that movie.
Right.
But yeah, I want to check this out. I don't think I'll read the book. There's been a lot of hate for this too. I've also seen like there's been a lot of hate.
I mean, despite the money it's making.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. We seem to have some difficulty streaming here. Oh, God damn it.
It's because you talked about Ready Player One.
Oh, I guess
and all the people who hate it came and they commented on our page.
Oh, good, because it's dumb. Let me just go to 2.4. I want to see if it's the actual scene. Okay.
This always happens to us every single time.
Every single time. Hold on a second. We're at low output right now. Getting back. Get back to that green. I mean, it's still. I think it's still outputting, but I don't know if it's like skipping a lot of stuff that we're saying. Okay, we're back on green now. So, getting back to it. Sorry, we had some streaming issues, but I think we're working through it right now. So yeah, there is a lot of hate for this movie. In some cases, there's a lot of hate for the book as well.
Yeah.
And like, one of the main arguments, they're just like. It's not original. They're doing, callbacks to other stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of always been there, kind of thing. And like, to me, Ready Player One is just being a little bit more honest with its callbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's I don't really necessarily think that's a bad thing, And like I said, there's book purists, and then there's people who haven't even read the book, so this is all new to them.
And then there's people who just want to hate on it.
And some people just want to hate on it because it's Spielberg, and they're like, "Oh, it's time to take him down a couple notches." I'm like, okay, I guess if that's how you feel, go ahead. To me, it's just like an angry crowd on the internet that seems to post, more and more. Like, just they like to post and be loud about it. Like I said, it was a fun little summer movie. It's not Gattaca, I guess. Did you like Gattaca?
Don't you ever talk about Gattaca?
Well, I'm just saying it's not supposed to be this epic that. Even when I was reading the book, I thought it was a little fun adventure. I didn't really read into it and thought, oh, this is a way of life.
Why you got to bring Gattaca into this?
I'm just bringing it in.
God damn it.
Yeah. Did you like Gattaca?
I love Gattaca. Gattaca is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's 3.5 hours long.
Oh wait, are we thinking of the same Gattaca?
Yeah.
Like you're thinking about Gattaca with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, right?
Yeah.
The biopunk movie.
Yeah, biopunk.
Yeah, it's biopunk, man.
Right.
Yeah, I like Gattaca.
Why don't you make up your own genres now?
You know what? I'm gonna make up woodpunk, where everything's just wood.
Isn't that just
and there's no fire. There's no fire in the world.
That's like the opposite of
actually,
like the end of Escape from L.A.
That's true. Actually, they called that Fern Gully.
Fern
the last
Gully?
rainforest, yeah.
I thought it was called Avatar.
Yeah. Fucking Avatar. I still give Avatar shit. I still refuse to acknowledge that movie is good.
Avatar?
Yeah.
I thought the 3D was good, but like I don't own it or
Here's
anything
the thing.
That.
Everyone I talk to, they always say that.
Well,
they always say they're like, the 3D was fucking great, but only in the theater.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't have a desire to watch that movie in any other form besides that one time I saw in 3D, but I don't like going to 3D movies anyways, so I don't.
I refuse to acknowledge that movie was ever any good. That's why I'm hoping when he releases his other 8 sequels to Avatar,
I don't think he's ever going to release them.
I hope they all bomb.
I don't think they're ever going to come out because I think the problem with this is that the movie was now what? When did that come out? 2009? It's or 8?
No, you're right.
No, it came out a long time ago.
7.
2007?
I think so.
So it's been like
let's say 8. Let's say 8.
Okay. So it's been a long time.
10 years.
Yeah, it's been like 10 years since it's.
I heard his first sequel's not going to come out until 2020.
Right, and I think that's like a dumb idea. Like,
Yeah.
why? So that people can forget that there was a first movie and have this sort of false sense of, oh, this is a completely new movie, right? That I haven't seen. It's like, no, it's a sequel to Avatar. Oh, that sucks.
Well, at least now the actors in the movie it's all going to be voiceover.
Right, but like, I don't know. I just don't think that him releasing that movie will do anyone any good.
Yeah.
Particularly James Cameron.
You know,
I think James Cameron has more of a chance of releasing another Terminator film, which I hear he's working on.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think any of this Avatar crap is being made.
And one thing I actually agree. One thing I agree with what somebody said in like comment section on like IO9 and Sec. The reason why they're upset that he's making more Avatar movies is because that's all he's making. Because he's not making other kind of movies.
Yeah.
And that's the disappointment they say they have. They're like, he's wasting all his talent on making 8 fucking Avatar sequels and not making other kinds of movies. Like, even forgetting the like an Alien movie or a Terminator movie. Like, another kind of movie. Like, we're not going to see another, like, True Lies or something different from him. We're going to see 8 fucking Avatar movies.
Right. But I don't think that's ever going to happen because, like, the time for him to release that was like 3 years after the first movie was made.
Yeah.
Like 3 years is actually a long time too.
Yeah.
Because that was like roughly the time between like Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. So even back then that was a long time.
Do you think it's gonna be like what happened with Indiana Jones 4?
No, because Indiana Jones 4 at least has this sort of like nostalgia to it because they consistently released movies at a certain point. To me, this is like releasing a sequel to
Deep Blue Sea.
Well, yeah. You know what? Yes, that's what it seems like. It's like this is the sequel to Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
Oh, they came out was a sequel? Oh, well, it took them a while.
Yeah.
And like I love how like that when like someone was saying, "Oh, the long-awaited sequel to Deep Blue Sea." Like I wasn't waiting for a sequel for Deep Blue Sea.
Nobody was waiting.
Yeah, I was just like
actually the only person who might have been waiting for a sequel to Deep Blue Sea was LL Cool J.
Probably, but he's not in the sequel.
Yeah.
He's even moved on.
And I don't even want to watch it because he's not in it. I only want to watch Deep Blue Sea for LL Cool J and that's it.
Right. But like I don't want to watch like Avatar 2. Everyone's going to be all old.
And depressed.
I think Zoe Saldana should just, concentrate on getting that next Star Trek movie made because I want another Star Trek film with that crew. And I kind of want it to be directed by Quentin Tarantino just to see what he has to offer. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they're talking about it. But I don't want to see the Avatar movie. It was groundbreaking for the technology for 3D, but guess what? Not a lot of movies are 3D anymore.
And you know what? That really didn't really stick as much as people thought it was.
No,
it
didn't. It didn't because
nobody wants to do 3D.
Technology.
Yeah, nobody wants to do 3D. Nobody wants to see 3D movies.
Like, I mean, at this point, like, if you're going to do a 3D movie, you're going to have to just make it VR or make it holographic or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, nobody wants to watch 3D movies. And if somebody says, "Oh, I love watching 3D movies," you're full of shit.
Oh, Cotterman's like that. And I always tell him, dude, this is not going to be. And then, like, he's like, oh, that's why I got 3D TV. And, like, at this point, he doesn't have a 3D TV. He has just a smart television that does 4K. And I was like, do you have fun 4K movies? Like, no. What do you stream? What do you do here? Oh, I just stream YouTube and watch Hot Ones. Have you ever seen that Hot Ones show?
What's the Hot Ones?
That's where they have all those wings. It's like all those like buffalo wings, and they have like the corresponding sauces in front of them, and like gradually they get like hotter and hotter. And this guy's interviewing the celebrity as they're eating the chicken wings, and like as they're getting to like the third like
that kind of sounds. That actually sounds interesting.
It's such a great show.
I think we need to start watching.
It's such a great
show. Does
it
it have Billy Zane in it?
It did not have Billy Zane, but it did have Terry Crews, and the Terry Crews one, like if you were gonna check out any Hot Ones, watch the one with Terry Crews.
I think we need to stop recording and watch the one with Terry Crews.
We're gonna do that right now. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's @IncognitBro and @ChuckingDice. We
both have YouTube channels.
YouTube channels. This one, and then we have the one that's is it Augmented Biscuits?
I think so.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/Augmented Biscuits, or it could be Chris Nieto, I think.
I think it's I don't know. It's something. Yeah. It's something. I don't remember. I don't know anymore.
But you can check out his streams on there. It's actually in the description right now.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is actually connected to my Twitter as well. So if you go to my my Twitter bio, it has a link to my YouTube.
Incognito Bro is the Twitter, and where's the YouTube channels? Oh, there we go. YouTube channels. Oh, CIN1122.
Yeah.
What are you, like a freaking stormtrooper?
Yeah, I'm a fucking stormtrooper.
CIN1122. Why aren't you at your post?
Because I'm masturbating.
Oh, well, have fun with that.
And
one.
it's hard to masturbate with this fucking helmet on. I can't even shoot my dick straight. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
We're gonna check out Cherry Crew's Hot Ones right now.
Hot Ones.
Yeah.
Also, thanks for joining us, Vic. You rule.
Yeah, Vic, you're awesome.
We're just gonna say Vic rules at the end of every show.
We
now.
should just make Vic our third host.
He practically is.
He actually is.
Yeah.
He practically is. Thank you, Vic.
Thanks, Vic.